Hello friends, today's topic is NAT-T and NAT-D in IPsec. Before we move on, you need to understand that NAT, that means Network Address Translation, and IPsec, that means IP Security Protocol, doesn't go well with each other. They are bitter enemies, so they don't like each other. IPsec says that whatever I send from this side should be received as it is on the other side. NAT says that I'll definitely go ahead and change your IP address and the port number. I would not leave it as it is. So they work in the reverse direction, exactly opposite. So that's why it's a huge problem to make it work, to send the IPsec traffic over a NAT. But there is a way to do that. That is called NAT traversal. We'll learn more in this video. Now, when we say NAT traversal, so NAT traversal is a way to override the NAT. That means a NAT device is there when the traffic is being sent. It will do its work, but to prevent an issue which can cause or prevent that traffic to be sent to the receiver end, then we use this NAT traversal. Now, what exactly happens? Let's say this is a packet that is a clear text packet. That means not encrypted, not encapsulated. It is a normal packet. It is being sent. Now to send it, there are two options. One is AH, that is authentication header, and one is ESP, encapsulating security payload. Now with the AH, it is primarily for authentication. But since we'll have to encapsulate this packet and encrypt this packet, we'll have to use the ESP packet here, ESP protocol here. Now to use the ESP protocol, what we would do is, we would encrypt this packet and we would put our ESP header and trailer over it. Now this would become our ESP packet. After putting that header and trailer, it would not be a normal clear text packet. That means it is encrypted now. It is encapsulated. Now till this point, everything is fine. Now the problem is this ESP doesn't have a port number. Now ESP packet is formed, but it needs to go through PAT, port address translation. But in order to go through the port address translation or the PAT, it needs to have a port number, but ESP doesn't have a port number. Now what to do? Now in that case, this NAT traversal comes to our rescue. It saves us. How it saves us? It would wrap this ESP packet inside another packet that would be a UDP packet with a port number of 4500. UDP port number 4500. Now once this UDP port 4500 is placed, now it has a port number which PAT wanted, and it has IP address information from here. Now what it would do is, this packet can easily go through PAT translation. Now what would do is, when a PAT device is in between and it tries to do the translation, this packet would go to the PAT device. PAT device by nature would change the IP address, what is inside it, to a publicly routable IP address, and this port number, the one that is provided, to a unique random port number. This is its nature, PAT device nature. This is how it works. So it would change it. Now the reason why it would change it is because this is one part of the story. That means this traffic is going from inside to outside. Obviously a response would come from outside to inside. In that scenario, how would this PAT device identify where to send this response back? So that is why this PAT device keeps a binding, keeps a database sort of thing, that I as a PAT device changed this traffic IP address and port number to these public IP address and this unique random port number. Now doing this, it is able to maintain a register or database sort of thing. So whenever the return traffic comes, where the response would come, it would be easily able to send that response back to the exact recipient or exact sender that initially sent it out. So this makes life easy for the traffic to go to and fro. Now this is one part of the NAT traversal. Till this point, it is fine. Okay. Now from this here, we understand that why this NAT traversal is done, why it is so important, like what is the problem with ESP packet, and what are the challenges for an ESP packet to go through the PAT. Okay, till this point it is clear. Now we would move on to the next concept, that is called as NAT discovery. Now NAT discovery is a less known topic basically. NAT discovery says there are two phases. One is, first of all, detect whether there is a NAT-D support or not. That means it would first check whether both the parties that are working together, they support NAT traversal or not. Because obviously, in order to move further, those parties should have NAT traversal support. Otherwise, there is no sense moving forward when they are not even capable of doing it. So this first part checks for the NAT traversal support. Now this second part that says detect NAT devices, it would detect the devices, because obviously the goal of this is to apply NAT traversal. It would apply NAT traversal when there is actually a NAT device in between that can change IP address and port number. So we have to ensure that we catch that NAT device. Now this detect NAT device feature, what it does is, first of all, it would detect the NAT device, and it would also detect the exact location of that NAT device in the path. Why it is so important? So that it can understand where to change that port, the basic port, to a port number 4500. The regular traffic that goes in is with the port 500, and then after applying NAT traversal it changes to port 4500. Let's see in the next slide. Now you see this is the main mode 6 packages. Now as you can see on the screen, these are the 6 messages in the main mode. Now we will speak about them one by one. These main mode messages, this first one that you see, the first one and the second one that you see here, they are very important. In the first 2 messages, we would exchange or we would negotiate this NAT traversal as we already discussed. That means to ensure that both parties support the NAT traversal. So we would do this negotiation, we would check that. How we would do that? We would send a vendor ID string. That means vendor identification string to understand that yes, both parties are capable of supporting NAT traversal in case needed going further. So this is what is negotiated in main mode packet 1 and message 2. So this is the message 1. The same thing is negotiated. You can see here, this is the main mode message 2. Now here also from the recipient side, other side, this vendor ID string is sent, making sure that they do negotiate that whether both parties support NAT traversal or not. So this is the response from the other side. When both the parties understand and are sure that yes, we both support NAT traversal, that means they can go safely in the next step. Now in these main mode messages 3 and 4, they would identify whether a NAT device exists or not. Now how would they identify NAT device exists or not? So if you remember, what is the function of that NAT device? It would change something in that. What something? IP address and the port number. Using a PAT device, it would go ahead and change that. Now, if you change something in that, what would happen to the hash value? The hash value would also change. So hashing is a mean or a method to ensure that the information that is conveyed remains the same from the sender to the recipient and vice versa. Now what would happen is, both parties would send a hash of the IP address and the port number. So source IP address and the source port number, and the destination IP address and the destination port number. This information would be sent from both ends using a NATD payload. So NATD payload would contain the hash. That means there would be 2 NATD payloads. One would be the NATD payload for source IP address and source port number, and the second NATD payload would be for the destination IP address and destination port number. This information would be exchanged from both the ends. Here you are seeing main mode message 3, wherein this information is sent. If you go on to the next message, this is main mode 4. Now the other party is also sending the exact same thing. This is NATD payload 1, this is NATD payload 2. So in both the source IP address and source port number, the hash of both these things from the source and the destination ends are exchanged. Now why it is done? The very simple thing, if these hashes that are exchanged, they don't change, that means they are exactly, both parties would receive, like sender would send a hash and the receiver would have one hash. Then they would compare the hashes that they have received and what they have already, and they would compare whether these hash values are same or not. If these hash values are exactly the same, that means there is no NAT device in between to change those hash values, or nothing is changed in this packet. That means there is no NAT device at all. But if something is changed in this hash, that means there is definitely some NAT device in between that has changed either the IP address or the port number or both the things. It has changed it for sure. That's why it confirms that there is a NAT device in between. So that's why this hash value is so important. When it is confirmed that there is a NAT device in between, then what would happen is it would change the port number that was used previously to a NAT traversal port number. If you look at the previous screen, if you see that the source port and destination port is 500 from the beginning of the first message till this fourth one. So it remains port number 500. But once this NAT is detected, that means a NAT device is there, this port number is changed to NAT traversal port number. That means port number 45 for both the source port and the destination port. Now once this was changed, that means there was a NAT device, and to counter that, we have changed the NAT traversal port numbers 4500 instead of using the regular one, that is 500 port numbers. Now there is one very important thing to understand here. In these packets we discussed about, in the first 2 packets we discussed about this vendor ID payload that is sent in the main mode messages 1 and 2, and in the main mode messages 3 and 4 we check about this NATD payload, the one that is sent. Now although this concept is good, but there is a catch here. The catch is that neither this NATD payload nor the vendor ID payloads are authenticated, neither in main mode nor in aggressive mode. Now, what is the problem here? The problem here is that an attacker can remove these payloads, can modify them, can re-add them, can do basically anything with these payloads. And that can cause a denial of service attack, DOS attack that we say. So that means these are not that secure. So friends, in this video, you understood what is NAT-T, what is NAT-D, what is the importance of both, what is UDP encapsulation, how these packets are encrypted first into ESP, then pad, and then sent out, and then how this NAT-T is applied on the per packet basis. I've explained you whatever happens in all the packets regarding this NAT reversal. You understood the importance of NAT-D, what it does, and how you can look into it from the Wireshark perspective. The packet exchanges, what you exactly see there. This is very important information that is asked in the interviews. So I hope you understood the concept properly. I would request you to kindly subscribe to my channel if you want such information and if you want to understand such concepts. Thank you so much for your time. You have a great day ahead.